American golf courses use about 30 times more water a year than every data center in the country combined. Golf irrigation in the US runs past 500 billion gallons a year. Every data center in the country combined used about 17 billion gallons directly in 2023. That's 30 times more water for a sport where a man in pastel short walks slowly towards a small hole. That gap is closing. Data center water use is climbing fast as AI scales, and some forecasts expect it to catch golf within a few years. But right now, today, golf wins by a landslide, and almost nobody is protesting a golf course. That mismatch is the actual story, not whether AI uses a lot of water. It does. The question is why AI became the water crisis's main character while bigger, older water users stayed out of the headlines. Google's own environmental report says they used about 6 billion gallons of water in 2023. Microsoft reported that they used 1.7 billion gallons company-wide. Those are real numbers and they are growing, but they're not a bottle of water per question. That specific claim comes from a research estimate built on a lot of assumptions about location and grid power, not a fixed universal fact. Treat it as a rough estimate, it is not a receipt. But here's the number that actually anchors this story. Agriculture uses roughly 70% of all fresh water withdrawn on Earth. This is according to UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. So every server, every AI model, every video call, all of it sits inside a rounding error next to that 70%. So if you want the real water story, you don't start with the data center, you start here. For decades, a bottled water company pumped water out of the San Bernardino National Forest in California. The permit they were using expired in 1988. The company kept pumping anyway, pulling an estimated 52 million gallons a year out of a drought-stricken forest in a drought-stricken state. The annual fee for that permit was $54. That's not per gallon, per year. It took a 2015 lawsuit from environmental groups before the Forest Service was even forced to review it. $24 a year for tens and millions of gallons of public water, bottled, sold back to the public at a markup of roughly several thousand times. Michigan runs a similar arrangement. A bottler there holds a permit for up to 576,000 gallons a day. That's close to 210 million gallons a year for a $200 administrative fee. So that's not a typo in my script. $200 for water a small city would need real infrastructure to move. In Vittel, France, where Vittel water comes from, the aquifer has been declining since Nestle started pumping there around 1990. Government estimates put it on track to run dry by 2050 at the current rate. The town is now discussing a pipe, like a literal pipe, funded by residents' own water bills to bring in water from somewhere else. So the people who live in the town the bottled water is named after may end up paying to replace the water taken to make it. Anyway, AI is the problem. Now here's the one that connects a foreign government's water policy to an American desert. In 2018, Saudi Arabia banned growing alfalfa domestically. Alfalfa, if you don't know, is one of the thirstiest crops that exists. And the kingdom decided it wasn't worth its own dwindling groundwater. So what did they do? A Saudi company leased land in Arizona instead. And they grew the alfalfa there. The desert. Arizona law lets landowners pump essentially unlimited groundwater for free if they own the land. So that company from Saudi Arabia used that gap to pull an estimated 31,000 acre feet of water in 2023 alone. How much is that in gallons? 10 billion gallons. To grow hay that was shipped back to Saudi Arabia to feed their dairy cattle. So when nearby residential wells started running dry, Arizona's governor moved to end the leases in 2023. But here's what actually happened though. The official reason the state gave wasn't the water. It was that the company had stored hazardous materials improperly. a violation flagged back in 2016 and still unresolved 7 years later. Depletion was the public pressure that got someone to finally look. The paperwork violation was the actual legal trigger. Those are two different things, and the difference tells you how thin the accountability really is. Meanwhile, a data center gets proposed nearby, and the local news runs a segment asking if AI is draining your water. It is. That's besides the point though. None of this is unusual. Once you start looking at ordinary products, let's talk about it. A pair of jeans, the ones you are wearing right now, carries a water footprint of roughly 7,000 to 11,000 liters, almost all of it from growing the cotton. A hamburger runs somewhere around 600 to 800 gallons, mostly from growing feed for the cow. Now, these huge hidden water footprints are already normal in things people buy every week without a second thought. AI just happens to be the newest one people are being asked to think about. Who's asking you to think about it? There's a reason that specific pattern feels familiar, because it is familiar. It has a paper trail. In 2004, BP paid an ad agency to help launch its Beyond Petroleum rebrand. Part of that campaign was a new idea: your personal carbon footprint, measured by a calculator BP built and put on its own website. Within a year, hundreds of thousands of people had used it to calculate how much of climate change was supposedly their personal fault. That's not an accusation without a source. It's a documented ad campaign from a documented year built by a documented agency for a documented client. It worked so well, the same shape shows up again here. Give the public a single, visible, easy to picture target. And the harder question about who caused the actual underlying problem gets quieter. To be fair, AI companies are not blameless in this story. Data centers do get built in places that are already water stressed because land there is cheap. That's a real documented pattern. And when local communities ask exactly how much water a specific facility uses, several of these major companies have called that number a trade secret and declined to answer. So the honest version of this story isn't AI is innocent. AI's water use is real. It's growing quickly, and the secrecy around exact figures is a legitimate problem worth the pressure. It's a smaller, newer problem sitting next to much larger, much older ones that have had far less light on them. Here's the actual scandal underneath all of it. In huge parts of the world, groundwater is priced at close to nothing for whoever can pump it fastest. There's no meter in a lot of these places. There's no real limit. A permit from 1988 or a $200 fee still governs how much of the water disappears. An aquifer that took thousands of years to fill can be emptied out within a couple of generations. Some, once drained, physically collapse and can never refill. That's the system driving the water crisis, not a machine deciding to drink the planet. A farm from 1988 that nobody bothered to renew. So next time a headline says AI is draining the water supply, ask 3 questions. Compared to what? Who measured it? And who benefits from you being angry at exactly this one thing and nothing else? The water crisis has real causes. They have names, permits, and paperwork from decades before AI existed. And somewhere right now, their pumps are still running quietly, delighted that after 50 years, someone finally built a machine that takes the blame better than they do.